"You don't deserve this vacation," my dad said, swirling his cocktail like he was the king of Spain. "Then stop using my credit card," I said, standing up from the table, napkin in hand. That was the last time I ever called it a family vacation. My name's Ryan. I'm 31. And until last week, I still clung to the fantasy that maybe, just maybe, I could fix my relationship with my family. That time would mellow out the sting. That love, whatever version they had, could somehow smooth over years of guilt, resentment, and quiet exploitation. But that illusion died over brunch in Marbella. The trip was supposed to be a rare celebration. My mom booked it months in advance, swore it would be a fresh start after a year of misunderstandings. Her word, not mine. Between unpaid debts, cold silences in the family group chat, and last-minute Venmo requests that always seemed to arrive around payday, I should have known better. "You work so hard, Ryan," she told me on the phone. "Let us treat you for once." No arguing, so I didn't. I packed light, bit my tongue, and even wore the stupid matching shirt she mailed everyone before the trip, navy blue, cursive script. Lawson Family Takeover 2025. My sister Elle brought her fiancé, some guy who wore linen pants, and called everyone brother. My older brother Max rolled in late, dipped early, and kept blaming blockchain volatility for his absences. Mom tried to play referee. Dad? He just drank. We'd only been there 3 days. I was still jet-lagged. The sun was warm, the sea perfect. We were eating breakfast at the open-air restaurant, all pretending like we were some kind of functional unit, laughing about childhood stories that were never funny, chugging down overpriced espresso. I hadn't said a word about the bills, about the fact that the hotel had my card on file, that I'd been charged for the extra room upgrades, the spa appointments Elle kept accidentally booking, the nightly room service with no name attached. I told myself, let it go. It's just money. Then my dad leaned back, sunglasses perched on his forehead like some retired Bond villain, raised his drink and said, "You don't deserve this vacation, Ryan. You've always been kind of the buzzkill." I blinked. He sipped his drink. "But hey," he added with a smirk, "thanks for picking up the tab. Your card makes a damn good family fund." They all laughed. Even Mom. Even Elle. And in that moment, I felt something shift. That cold, queasy feeling that doesn't come from embarrassment. It's deeper. The kind of twist that tells you this isn't just a bad joke, it's personal. Deliberate. So I said it. Then stop using my credit card. I stood slowly, placed my napkin down, looked right at my dad, and added, "And next time, maybe try ordering respect with your room service. It's not included." No one moved. Elle's fiancé froze mid-bite. Max raised an eyebrow. Mom fumbled for her mimosa and missed the glass. I didn't wait for applause, I just walked. Through the pool area, past the bar, into the elevator. By the time I got back to my suite, my hands were shaking. My jaw hurt from clenching it. That was the moment I stopped pretending this was a vacation. Later that afternoon, I opened my banking app, and there it was. Two $841.37 at the luxury boutique, $1,200 for a couple's massage. I'm single. $375.50 in minibar and room service charges. I'd barely touched the fridge. Every penny on my card. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. It was coordinated. They knew I'd never speak up. That I'd sign the bill like I always did. That I'd bite my tongue and laugh along and swallow the bitterness like it was vitamin water. I thought back Dad forgetting his wallet at restaurants. The beach house I co-signed but never got keys to. Jake's DUI fine that I covered after Mom whispered, "He's your brother. He's struggling." Every incident added up like a spreadsheet in my mind. That evening, I went to the front desk and asked for a full printout of the charges under my card. The manager hesitated until I said the magic words, "My card, my money." He handed it over. I sat outside on the balcony of my suite, legs propped up, sipping plain water and flipping page by page through my family's private shopping spree. Room numbers, timestamps, signatures, each one a reminder that they never even said thank you. Instead, "You've always had more than the others," my mother once said. "Don't act like a victim." I was 10 when I realized I was invisible in my family. It was the night before my school's science fair. I had built a papier-mâché volcano. It took me a week. It had working lava, hand-painted details, the works. I was proud. Mom walked by it half a dozen times. Didn't say a word. But when Elle came storming into the kitchen crying about a cracked tiara for her school play, Mom dropped everything, stepped right over my volcano, crushed it, didn't even notice. That night, I went to bed with glue on my fingers and a quiet understanding in my chest. I didn't matter as much. My dad, Paul, was ex-military turned insurance agent. All bark, no hug. His motto, "If you're complaining, you're not working hard enough." So I stopped complaining. Started mowing lawns at 13. Flipped phones at 16. Opened my first savings account before I even had a debit card. They didn't see that as ambition, they saw it as a resource. When Elle turned 17, she got a new Mazda with a big red bow. It's not safe for her to take the bus, Mom said. When I turned 18, I got a used gym bag and a $50 Target gift card. They didn't come to my college graduation. Not because they couldn't, but because Max had a barbecue. But when Max got expelled, guess who they called to bail him out? It's just a small loan, Ryan, Mom had said. You're stable. He's not. That small loan, $3,000. He spent it on crypto and a trip to Ibiza. So no, Marbella wasn't the first betrayal. It was just the last one I let slide. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of jet lag, not because of the noise from the resort bar echoing off the marble walls, but because my mind wouldn't stop replaying the laughter at the table. The way they smiled like what they did wasn't wrong. Like I was the fool for ever expecting more. I got up around 1 a.m., pulled the hotel receipts from my bag, and sat down at the desk, highlighter in hand. There were names next to most of the charges. Elle's spa day, Max's champagne orders, my parents' boutique purchases. A few were anonymous room service, minibar, housekeeping tips. They assumed I'd never check. That I'd just eat the bill and move on. But I wasn't that person anymore. I couldn't be. By morning, I had a neat little file of every unauthorized charge they made. I didn't confront them right away. I needed time. Not to cool down, but to calculate. Because this wasn't going to be another one of those emotional explosions that ends in a teary group hug and me paying for next month's rent. I was done playing peacekeeper with a wallet. So I sat on it for a full day, avoided the family group chat, skipped dinner, and ignored the knocks on my door. Let them wonder, let them feel a fraction of the tension they made me carry for years. The next night, I typed out an email, subject line, family charges, immediate review required. No emojis, no warm closings, just an attached PDF and a single paragraph. Hi all, attached you'll find a breakdown of all charges linked to my card this week. Please review and confirm which items each of you will be reimbursing by Friday. If I don't hear back, I'll be forced to take formal legal and financial steps, including reporting unauthorized usage to my bank and relevant authorities. This isn't personal. It's financial accountability, Ryan. I sent it to the whole group. Then I turned off notifications and went to the beach. 3 hours later, Elle texted, "Are you actually serious right now?" Then Max, dude, it's a few spa treatments. Calm down. Finally, Mom, can we just talk on Zoom? Privately? Please? I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her a meeting link. She joined a few minutes later, eyes tired, wine glass already half empty. Then Elle and Max popped in, both looking annoyed and confused. Dad was off camera, of course. "Ryan," Mom started, "why would you threaten us like this? It's us. Your family." "Exactly," I said. "That's the problem." Max leaned back and snorted. "This is about a couple grand on a vacation? You act like we robbed a bank." I shared my screen. First slide, total charges, $14,372.10. Second slide, breakdown by person. Max, $4,200. Elle, $3,850. Dad, $2,400. Mom, $2,100. Unknown, $1,800. Silence. I let it sit for a beat, then asked, "Is it normal to charge thousands to someone's account without asking first? Just because I make more money? That's not family. That's fraud." Elle scoffed. "It's not like it's hurting you. You have a good job. You make more than all of us combined. And that makes it okay?" I asked, voice steady. "To treat me like an ATM? Because you think I'll bounce back faster than you?" No one answered. So I answered for them. That's not generosity. That's entitlement. And I'm done funding it. Then came Mom's speech. The one I've heard versions of since I was 17. That they just wanted a nice trip. That they thought if we could all just relax for once, we might feel like a family again. That I was cold. That I'd changed. That she missed the sweet boy who always put everyone first. I let her finish. Then I leaned in toward the webcam and said, "I haven't changed. I've just stopped lying about how tired I am of being used." Dad finally spoke. "All right, Ryan. You've made your point. What do you want? A check?" I shook my head. "No, I want boundaries and consequences." That call ended without resolution. But something in me had already shifted. The next day, I filed a fraud report with my bank. I uploaded receipts, signed the dispute forms, and let the financial process begin. If they wanted to act like I didn't matter, I'd show them exactly how much I did. Step 1, legal. Step 2, exposure. That night, I posted every single charge in the extended family group chat. Caption, this is what family vacation looked like, just so you all know who paid for your cocktails. My cousin Maya replied within minutes. Wait, this is real? My uncle Tom asked if I was hacked. Elle left the group without saying a word. Max sent me a private message, don't air family drama like this. I left him on read. Then came step 3, protection. I called my lawyer and had every family member removed from my emergency contacts, will, and life insurance policies. No more shared access. No fallback plans. Especially not for people who treat generosity like a weakness. For the first time in years, I had peace knowing they couldn't access me financially or emotionally. That same week, I got a $75,000 year-end bonus at work, something I hadn't told anyone about because I was tired of money turning into obligation. But when I saw it hit my account, I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just booked a solo trip to Iceland. 5 stars, first class, paid in full. And I posted a single photo on social media. Snow-covered mountains, a steaming mug in hand. Caption, paid by me. No freeloaders this time. A week later, Dad called. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail. Ryan, I get that you're upset, but you're being dramatic. This is family. You owe us a chance to fix it. I replied with a text. I owe you nothing. You just overdrafted my patience. They expected this to follow the usual script. Tension, silence, guilt, forgiveness, repeat. But I'd flipped the script, and they didn't know how to react. They tried texting. I ignored it. They tried calling. I declined. Then came Mom's birthday. She invited me to her dinner like nothing had happened. I didn't say yes or no. I just showed up toward the end and brought printed copies of every resort receipt. When it was time for the toast, I stood up. Since we're all here, I said, I just want to thank you for the vacation. Not because you gifted it, but because you showed me, finally, who you really are. I laid the receipts on the table. Elle turned pale. Max cursed under his breath. Mom looked like she wanted to crawl under the floor. This isn't about money, I said. It's about respect. And I'm done pretending I'm the problem for expecting it. Then I walked out. No big scene, no yelling. Just the sound of a chair sliding back, a door closing, and the weight finally lifting from my chest. After that birthday dinner, the air between me and my family went icy. Not in the usual passive-aggressive way we'd all perfected over the years. This was different. This was real silence. Not a single text in the group chat, no guilt trip emojis, no how's work, check-ins. For the first time in over a decade, my phone stayed quiet. And that quiet was beautiful. I didn't realize how loud their expectations had been until they disappeared. For a while, I just existed in the stillness. Woke up, drank my coffee, went to work, came home. No fire to put out, no emotional cleanup duty, just my life. Finally mine. Of course, that peace couldn't last. A few weeks later, I got a message from Elle. Not an apology, not an explanation, just this. I didn't think it would get this bad. I'm in a rough spot right now. Could you spot me $300 until Friday? No hello, no acknowledgement of the $3,850 in resort charges that were still sitting on my credit card statement. Just a casual ask, like nothing had ever happened. I didn't reply. Instead, I attached a screenshot of her boutique and spa charges from Marbella. Caption, already did, no refunds. That was the moment I realized how deep the entitlement ran. They didn't see me as someone they hurt. They saw me as someone who stopped playing his role. The helper, the backup plan, the responsible one who never said no. And when I finally did, they treated it like a betrayal, like I was the one who broke the family. So I decided to break the silence on my own terms. I sat down and wrote everything, not a diary entry, not a rant, a story. My story. I called it When Your Family Sees You as a Wallet, and published it on Medium. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't cruel, it was just the truth. I laid out the pattern of exploitation that stretched back to childhood, the emotional gaslighting, the weaponized guilt, the birthday cruise I bought and never got to use, the way they turned my career into their safety net. I included the exact numbers, the timeline, the emotional fallout. I wrote not to shame them, but to finally feel seen. The story took off within days. Over 250,000 views in the first week. Emails poured in from strangers who said, "This is my life too." Therapists reposted it. Creators on TikTok read it aloud. One message stuck with me. You gave me the courage to say no for the first time in my life. That message hit me harder than anything my family ever said to me. Because it came with no strings, no expectations, just honest gratitude. And it made me realize something I'd been afraid to admit. Cutting them off didn't make me a villain. It made me free. So I kept going. I changed every password I had, opened a brand new bank account with no shared access, unlinked them from every payment app, Zelle, Venmo, PayPal gone. I removed them from my emergency contacts, insurance plans, retirement documents. I even updated the security settings on my utilities and online profiles. They'd never again be able to say, "We didn't know," or "We thought it was still under your name." They knew, and now they had to live without it. 3 days later, Mom texted me. "What's this new card?" We couldn't buy Elle her course materials. That was the first time she'd reached out in over a month. Not to apologize. Not to ask how I was doing. Just to point out that the pipeline had been cut. I replied with 5 words. "Sounds like your responsibility now." Then I archived the thread. That would have been the end of it, if not for one final attempt at manipulation. Elle messaged me again, this time with a paragraph. She said she didn't realize how much I was paying, that she thought the card on file was just for emergencies, that she didn't mean to push me away. But then she ended with, "If you're still upset, that's on you." And that's when I knew she hadn't changed. None of them had. They still thought this was about a grudge, about a bruised ego. They didn't get that it was about survival, about reclaiming the part of myself they drained for years. So I didn't respond to her either. Instead, I went on with my life, quietly, proudly, and with more clarity than I'd had in years. Work was better. I had energy again. I stopped dragging my laptop home every weekend. Started actually taking my PTO. I found a small townhouse just outside the city, modern, clean lines, natural light. Paid the down payment in cash. No co-signers, no shared title, just my name on every document. It wasn't just a home. It was proof that I could build something permanent without them, that I wasn't dependent, that their version of me, the cold, distant one, wasn't cold at all. He was just finally warm in his own life. In January, I got called into my VP's office. He offered me a promotion head of my division, more money, more flexibility, full creative control. The kind of position I once believed was always reserved for people with connections. Turns out I just needed to cut the wrong ones. I took the job, didn't post about it, didn't announce it to anyone. No humble brag on LinkedIn, no celebration dinner. Because the best revenge isn't loud, it's silent. It's sitting in your new office, sipping coffee you paid for, knowing no one can take it from you. Around that same time, Max's car got repossessed. A friend from high school who works at the DMV texted me a photo of the tow truck. "Guess who's Ubering again from your parents' house," she wrote. Back to base camp. I didn't gloat, just replied, "Checks out." Elle lost her job at the boutique. Mom emailed me with a dramatic subject line, "Urgent Elle needs support." I opened it out of curiosity, not concern. She said Elle was trying her best, that she just needed a little help until she got back on her feet. I didn't even type a full sentence in response. Just wrote, "You raised her, you help her." Then I clicked archive again. They kept trying, kept sending little lifelines into the silence, hoping I'd grab on out of habit, but I never did. And eventually, the messages slowed down, until one day they stopped altogether. 2 months later, I got a handwritten letter, blue ink, cursive, perfume scented, Mom's handwriting. No return address, but I knew it was her. The envelope was heavy with guilt. Inside, a note, "Ryan, I know we made mistakes. I know it hurts, but this silence is tearing us apart. Elle is in therapy. Max has been asking about you. Your father barely speaks anymore. We're not asking for money, just for you. Please come home." I read it once. Then flipped the page over and wrote one sentence. "Love doesn't come with an invoice." I walked over to my fireplace, lit a match, and watched the paper curl in on itself. Slow and final. The flame flickered for a second, then disappeared. Just like the obligation, just like the guilt. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad. I felt clean. After I burned that letter, I didn't feel like a man who just walked away from his family. I felt like someone who finally came home to himself. The quiet in my new townhouse wasn't hollow. It was full of space I never had before. Space to think without bracing for guilt. Space to breathe without checking my balance. Space to live without waiting for someone to ask for something. I stopped flinching every time my phone buzzed. Because slowly, surely, it stopped buzzing altogether. The group chat had gone cold. No more cousin birthdays. No passive-aggressive recipe links from Mom. No vague complaints about people forgetting where they come from. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't being emotionally billed for belonging. I could feel it in the small things. In how I slept through the night without dreams of family dinners that always ended with me washing the dishes alone. In how I started humming to myself while making coffee. In how the silence, once a void, had become a choice. My choice. And when people say cutting off family is extreme, they never ask what it takes to reach that point. They don't see the 1,000 little betrayals that lead you there, the favors disguised as love, the manipulation disguised as tradition, The years spent being the strong one, because weakness would have been used against you, they don't ask. But I had stopped explaining. Work felt different too. I wasn't dragging myself through Monday to Friday, trying to earn something that might redeem the latest emotional expense. I was sharp again, focused, present, and my team noticed. My manager pulled me aside after a client pitch and said, "You've changed, in a good way, you seem lighter." And I was. Because I wasn't carrying their weight anymore. I had handed it back and said no more. Not with anger, not with spite, just with finality. Then, a few weeks after that letter, the dominoes started falling. Elle was back at my parents' house, fired from her boutique job. Something about the owner downsizing, but I knew better. She'd been coasting for years, funded by guilt and my bank account. Now, with the pipeline gone, reality was knocking. Mom emailed me again. This time it was longer, more dramatic. She said Elle was in a really dark place and asked if I could just cover a few therapy sessions until she got back on her feet. I didn't respond, because they never asked when I needed help. They only noticed my strength when it benefited them. I archived the email without blinking. Max wasn't doing much better. A former coworker of his reached out to me on LinkedIn, someone I hadn't talked to in years. She messaged me out of the blue and said, "Your brother's been trying to use your name to get freelance contracts. I figured you should know." I wasn't even surprised. That was the family rhythm. When one door closed, they tried to crawl in through the windows. I thanked her, then blocked him from all professional networks. Let him build his own foundation this time. Even Dad reached out again. Not directly. He called from a burner number and left a voicemail. Said he didn't agree with how things went down, but hoped I could let bygones be bygones because life's too short to hold grudges. I played it once, then deleted it, because they always framed it like I was the one holding a grudge. Like my silence was the problem, not the years of using me like a walking safety net. But I knew the truth. I wasn't holding on to anger, I was holding on to boundaries. And they weren't used to that. Then came the announcement. My promotion officially went public in the company bulletin. Executive track profit sharing. Flexible schedule. More freedom than I'd ever had. I didn't share it. Didn't text anyone. Didn't update my social media. Because this win was mine. Not for display. Not for approval. Just mine. I celebrated by taking a 3-day trip to the mountains. Cabin. Fireplace. No cell service. Just me. A book. And silence that felt like peace instead of punishment. Back home, I started getting messages from extended family. Some subtle, some nosy. Haven't seen you at any family events. Hope everything's okay with your parents. Elle says you've been distant. I ignored most of them. Until I got a message from my cousin Maya, the only one who never took sides. She said, "Just wanted to say you were right to walk away. I used to think I was selfish for setting boundaries. Now I see it's called self-respect. Thank you for showing me what it looks like." I stared at that message for a long time, not because it hurt, but because it healed something I didn't know was still raw, being seen, not as the one who could afford it, not as the one who could handle it, but just as a person, someone with limits, someone who deserved care, not collection notices masked as phone calls. Months passed, and with every week, my old life shrank behind me. The guilt faded like background noise after leaving a loud restaurant. My space grew, my focus sharpened. I took up hobbies I never had time for. Started hiking again. Learned how to cook something that wasn't frozen. Found out I actually liked jazz. I stopped checking for messages that never came. Because I finally understood that healing isn't loud. It's quiet. It's boring. It's choosing yourself 100 times over in small, invisible ways. And one day, I woke up and didn't think about them at all. Then came the final letter. No name on the envelope, but the handwriting gave it away. Mom, slanted script, blue ink, light scent of her old perfume that used to linger on hugs I don't miss. The letter wasn't long. It didn't beg. It was a soft nudge. She said things had changed, that Dad was different now, that Elle was in therapy, that Max had been asking about me, that they didn't want anything, just a seat at the table again, just to be family, just to start over. I read it once. No anger, no sadness, just clarity, because they still didn't get it. It was never about money, or even the lies. It was about the fact that I had said enough, and they heard maybe later. I folded the letter, took one long breath, then lit a match and watched it turn to ash. No drama, no ceremony, just finality. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and love doesn't mean returning to the fire you barely escaped. I didn't burn that last letter because I was angry. I burned it because I was done. Done waiting for apologies laced with conditions. Done listening to promises that expired the moment they were made. Done pretending that the people who hurt me could be the ones to heal me. I didn't cry as the paper curled and blackened in the flames. I didn't pause to read it again. I already knew the script. They had changed. They missed me. They wanted to be family again. But what they really missed was the convenience of me. And what they really wanted was access. In the weeks that followed, I didn't hear from them. And for once, the silence didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt earned. It felt clean. I'd cleared out the old energy, shut every door, and bolted it from the inside. I was no longer the emotional landlord of a home they'd never paid rent to. They could knock, but I had thrown the key away. Spring rolled in quietly. My garden started to bloom. The townhouse felt more like home every day. I began volunteering on weekends, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the space for. I found joy in simplicity Sunday mornings with fresh coffee and no buzzing group chats, walks through the park with nothing on my shoulders except a light jacket. Peace stopped being a concept and started being my default. Then one afternoon, while driving home from the store, I passed by my childhood home. I hadn't planned to. I didn't slow down. But as I glanced over, something struck me. The paint was chipped, the grass overgrown. Max's old pickup sat in the driveway, one tire deflated, like a symbol of everything that had fallen apart. I didn't feel nostalgia. I didn't feel longing. I felt distance. Not the kind that makes you ache, but the kind that finally lets you breathe. A few days later, I got one last message. Not from Mom, not from Max, not even from Elle. It was a short email from a cousin I barely spoke to. She said there was going to be a family gathering for my mother's 60th, that everyone would be there, that they hoped I would come, that it wouldn't be the same without me. I stared at that message for a long time, not because I was torn, but because I wasn't. I wasn't curious. I wasn't tempted. I didn't want a seat at that table anymore. Still, part of me needed to close it right. So I went, not for them, for me. I showed up late, just as the party was hitting its peak. People were drinking, laughing, holding little paper plates of catered food. I walked in wearing a simple black button-up. No invitation, no fanfare, just presence. Mom's face lit up the moment she saw me, but there was a flicker of caution behind her smile, like she wasn't sure who she was getting. I didn't hug anyone, didn't make rounds. I walked straight to the gift table, placed an envelope on top, then turned toward the mic, where someone was giving a speech about family strength. I raised a hand and interrupted, calm but firm. Sorry to cut in. I just want to say one thing. All eyes turned. The room shifted. I pulled a small stack of printed papers from my coat receipts, statements, records. The same ones I'd sent in emails they ignored. I laid them on the nearest table without theatrics. My voice stayed low even. No tremble, no bitterness, just truth. These are the charges from the last family vacation. I didn't offer to pay. I wasn't asked. I was expected. Like always. A few gasps. A few awkward laughs. My uncle looked away. My aunt whispered something behind her glass. I kept going. I didn't come here to argue. I came here to make something clear. This isn't about money. This is about respect. And the fact that in this family my silence was taken as agreement. My boundaries were seen as negotiable. My kindness was treated like a resource. Mom opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. I'm not angry. I'm just done. I don't hate any of you. I just finally love myself enough to stop being the safety net, to stop letting guilt dress up as loyalty. Then I walked out, not fast, not dramatic, just steady, like a man who wasn't running anymore because there was nothing chasing him. Outside, the air was crisp. My car was parked 2 blocks away. Every step I took was a reminder I get to leave now, and they don't get to follow. After that, I changed the last things on my list, closed the final joint account they forgot I had access to, took my name off the old storage lease Mom had stuck me with, called my lawyer one more time and rewrote my emergency contacts. Again, this time including my best friend, my therapist, and no one related by blood. The final cut wasn't painful. It was necessary. In the months that followed, their lives started to unravel. Elle was working part-time at a local salon, still insisting it was temporary. Max moved back in with my parents full-time after getting evicted again. Dad's retirement plan had holes in it he didn't see coming. They were drowning in credit card debt and denial. But none of it surprised me, because they weren't used to consequences. They were used to bailouts. And the only reason the ship kept floating this long was because I'd been patching the holes. Now, it was sinking. I didn't celebrate their struggle. I didn't post vague quotes about karma. I just kept living, quietly, fully, for me. And every day, I didn't answer, didn't reply, didn't cave. That was my closure. Not revenge, just recovery. And then, one afternoon in early summer, I got a message that wasn't like the others. It came from Maya, the cousin who'd messaged me months ago. She said, "Just wanted to thank you again. I stood up to my dad last week, told him I wouldn't co-sign his business loan. He called me selfish. But you know what? I slept better than I have in years because of you." That message, it broke me and healed me in the same breath. I sat there with my phone in my lap, tears building, but not from sadness, from relief. Because for once, I wasn't alone in this. Someone else saw it, named it, chose themselves too. And maybe that's the point. Maybe healing isn't just about escape. Maybe it's about giving others the blueprint, showing them that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Life didn't explode after I walked away. It didn't collapse or unravel. It just kept going, but this time on my terms. There were no dramatic farewells, no last-minute apologies shouted from doorsteps, no final hugs that made me question everything. Just quiet mornings, honest routines, peace that didn't come with strings. I started living without calculating the emotional cost of every interaction. There were no unexpected calls asking for favors, no cold shoulders when I didn't show up with my wallet wide open, no whispered insults disguised as concern. And in that silence, I found something that had been missing for years, my own voice. With time, my world reshaped itself. I stopped measuring my worth by what I gave to people who only called when they needed something. I began to see value in stillness, in solitude that didn't feel like punishment. My home became a sanctuary, not a crash pad between emotional obligations. I woke up each day and felt my chest expand, not with dread, but with breath. Real, deep breath. The kind I used to only feel on vacations. Now every day was mine, unshared, unborrowed. Work flourished. I didn't just do my job, I led. My team grew. Our projects got recognized across the company. I started mentoring younger employees, people who reminded me of who I used to be: quiet, capable, and dangerously close to burning out because they didn't know how to say no. I taught them that no wasn't rude, it was necessary. That boundaries weren't walls, they were doors with locks. That self-respect wasn't arrogance, it was protection. I became the manager I never had, and in doing so, rewrote a chapter that had always felt unfinished. Outside of work, I kept building. I took cooking classes, learned how to make fresh pasta and not burn garlic. I joined a local hiking group and rediscovered the beauty of being surrounded by people who didn't expect anything from me but presence. I dated slowly, intentionally. No one moved in. No one asked to borrow rent money. And if they did, I'd already learned how to walk away without apology. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel needed. I felt wanted, and that difference changed everything. Meanwhile, my old life faded into the background. I heard things, of course. Whispers through mutual connections. Max had started driving for a rideshare app. Elle was applying to receptionist jobs, swearing it was temporary. My parents were juggling credit card debt and medical bills, and yet still somehow hosting dinners like nothing had changed. But none of it reached me, because they had finally learned what it felt like to live without me, without my money, without my time, without my forgiveness on tap. I wasn't cruel about it, I just stopped being available. I let them sit with the consequences they used to hand to me like unwanted leftovers. Then, out of nowhere, a package arrived. No name, just a brown envelope. Inside was a single family photo. Old, faded. The one from that vacation house I helped pay for, but never got to use. Someone had cropped me out. Clean, surgical. The edges of my arm still visible, but the face gone. At first I thought it was a mistake. Then I turned it over. On the back, written in my father's handwriting, were 5 words. "We miss who you were." I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I wasn't that person anymore. The one who smiled through insults, who paid and called it love, who let his dreams wait because someone else's emergency always came first. I used to think I had to earn my seat at the table. Now, I realized I built my own, so I wrote nothing back. Sent nothing in return. I didn't post about it, didn't vent, didn't even tell anyone. I just placed the photo in a drawer I no longer opened and went back to living. Then one afternoon in late summer, I stood on the balcony of my townhouse, watching the city soften into golden light, and I felt something click into place. Not a milestone, not a victory, just a deep, steady calm. The kind you get when you're no longer waiting for closure because you've already given it to yourself. People talk about breaking cycles like it's some dramatic act. But sometimes it's just deciding to stop answering the phone, to stop showing up, to stop rescuing people who never learned how to swim because they knew you'd always throw the rope. It's not revenge. It's release. It's not punishment. It's peace. And I think that's what my family never understood. I didn't walk away to hurt them. I walked away to save myself. Because I was tired of being the parachute for people who kept jumping out of planes without checking if they packed their own. I was tired of being the fallback, the fix, the quiet yes. I needed to be something else. Something whole. I look around now and see everything I built. A home that's mine, a career that fulfills me, relationships that feel mutual, a life that doesn't revolve around avoiding landmines or repairing damage I didn't cause. I used to wonder if I'd regret cutting them off. But regret doesn't visit me. Not in the mornings, not at night. And that silence, it's not lonely, it's sacred. Sometimes I still get messages from distant relatives, from people trying to convince me to come back for a holiday or a birthday or just to talk. I don't answer, not out of bitterness, but because I don't need to explain the peace I earned. I don't need to reopen doors I locked for a reason. Some people only understand your worth when they can no longer spend it. The last time I heard from my mother, it was another handwritten note. Short, no guilt this time. Just a question. Do you ever think about us? I read it once. Then I sat at my desk, pulled out a fresh sheet of paper, and wrote the only answer that felt honest. I think about who I had to become because of you, and I'm proud of him. Then I folded it, placed it back in the envelope, and slid it into the shredder, not to be cruel. Just to remind myself this chapter is closed. The lesson was learned, the price was paid, and the future belongs to me, not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. Story 2. My parents gave my sister the inheritance. Well, I got a wallet with $1. That's more than you'll ever need, they told me. But when I became a millionaire, they came asking for a loan. You're still not good enough, my mom said. Then let my sister handle your debt, I replied, walking out without looking back. You can open it now, my mother said, sliding the small black box across the table. We were sitting in the dining room, the same one where we used to eat Sunday dinners and pretend we were a normal family. Amanda sat across from me, a glass of champagne in her hand, looking like a smug little princess who just won a game. No one else was playing. I hesitated. My palms were damp. Something about the way my father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes heavy with that familiar blend of boredom and superiority. It didn't sit right. I opened the box. A wallet, brown leather, cheap inside, folded carefully, was a single dollar bill. I looked up. Is this a joke? Amanda laughed. It's symbolic. Dad nodded. That's more than you'll ever need. You've never cared much about money, right? I blinked. You gave Amanda the house and the savings, the lake property, and I get $1. Amanda took a slow sip of her drink. Don't be dramatic. You've always been the independent one. Yeah, Mom chimed in. Amanda was here. She took care of us after your surgery, paid the bills when things got hard. I nearly choked. I sent money every month. I covered Dad's hospital stay when your insurance didn't. I paid Amanda's rent for 2 years when she was between jobs. Don't be petty, Mom snapped. We made our decision. That's that. For a second, I just sat there staring at them, trying to decide whether this was some sort of social experiment or if they genuinely believed their own fiction. Amanda, the golden child. Me, the disposable one. It had always been that way, but this time, it was different. This wasn't just favoritism, this was erasure. I stood up, took the wallet, and shoved it in my coat pocket. I hope it buys you the peace of mind you've never given me. I said my mom's side like I was the ungrateful one. Amanda rolled her eyes. I left. No one stopped me. Not even a whisper of wait. It took me 4 years of grinding, of 20-hour days and ramen dinners and saying no to every little indulgence. But in year 5, I hit gold. My company went viral. Within 6 months, I was a millionaire. That's when the messages started. Hey stranger, Amanda texted. Hope you're doing well, said Mom. Dad didn't text, but there was a missed call from his number. Said enough. I ignored them until last week. I picked up just once to see what they'd say. You're doing well now, my mother said softly. We were wondering if you could help us with something. It's been difficult lately. I didn't answer at first. Then she added, You've always wanted to prove you're good enough. And just like that, the old wound ripped open again. But I didn't bleed. I smiled. You're still not good enough, she said when I didn't immediately agree. I leaned back in my chair, took a deep breath and said, Then let Amanda handle your debt. And I hung up. But that wasn't even the real twist. Because 2 hours later, Amanda showed up at my office. And what she said next changed everything. You'd think a single dollar in a wallet would be the cruelest part. It wasn't. The real cruelty was that it had always been like this. Quiet, calculated, coated in fake smiles and guilt trips. Dressed up as family values. Growing up, Amanda was the princess. Blonde curls, ballet recitals, and trophies that somehow ended up on my shelf, so guests could admire our gifted daughter. I was the kid with average grades. A part-time job at 15 and no framed photos in the hallway. Still, I didn't complain. I paid my way through college with scholarships and vending machine dinners. I got a job in tech straight out of graduation and started sending money home the same month. Just until we pay off the medical debt. Dad said I believed him. I always did. Then Amanda flunked out of business school twice. Guess who paid off her loans? She's just lost right now. Mom had said over the phone, crying. Can you cover it, please? You're her brother. Lost. She was partying in Miami with some guy named Troy while I skipped lunch to meet client deadlines. But I sent the check every time when Amanda turned 30 and announced she was starting her own brand. Mom threw her a surprise party. I covered the catering. Amanda gave a speech about how real family stands by you no matter what, while avoiding eye contact with me the entire time. The inheritance drama. That wasn't even a surprise, it was just the final stamp on a lifelong pattern. She was always the one worth investing in. I was the one expected to fund the investment. And yet, nothing prepared me for the moment. Amanda showed up at my office last week. She looked different, nervous, hair tied back, no makeup, expensive heels worn down at the heel. I need to talk to you, she said, slipping inside before I could say no. I stared at her. You've finally come to see me after 5 years, and you don't even say hi. She sat down like she owned the chair. They're drowning, Mom and Dad. That's gambling again. And Mom maxed out her second credit card. They thought I could handle it because of the inheritance. But it's gone. I froze. What do you mean, gone? She didn't blink. They pressured me into giving it back, bit by bit, helping them cover the mortgage. I thought I could flip the rest with some crypto guy. I laughed loudly. You gave away the family fortune and got scammed by a guy named, what? Some crypto genius? It's not funny, she snapped. Oh, it's hilarious, I said. Because I told you. I told all of you. I warned you when you laughed at me over that wallet. She leaned forward. They need help. Real help. Ask your crypto guy. I'm asking you. I stood up. Why should I give you anything? Because you're rich now, she said flatly. Because you've always been the reliable one. No, I said. I was always the useful one. There's a difference. She didn't flinch. Fine. Be cold. But know this, if you don't help, everything falls apart. The house goes. That pension is already gone. Mom's on something. They'll lose everything. I stared at her. You didn't come here for them? You came here for yourself. Because when they go down, you go down with them. Then she said the line that finally snapped the last thread of decency inside me. You owe us this. We raised you. I stepped closer, voice low and sharp. You raised me to be your emergency fund, but I'm not your savings account anymore. She opened her mouth to reply, but I wasn't done. You sat there. Watched them hand me $1 and say nothing. You called me bitter when I stopped giving you posted vacation pics on Instagram with hashtags like #FamilyFirst while I was eating ramen noodles to keep your lights on. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. And just as she stood to leave, she turned, looked me dead in the eye, and whispered, if you think this is over, you're wrong. They have a plan, and you're not gonna like it. Then she walked out, heels clicking down the hall like a warning shot. And that's when I knew it. This wasn't about guilt. This was a setup. And they weren't done with me yet. The message came 3 days later, a plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name written in Amanda's handwriting. The same curvy loop she used to fake our mom's signature on sick notes in high school. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A notice of claim. Apparently my parents were suing me. Failure to fulfill implicit financial obligations to immediate family. It read emotional damages from abandonment. I nearly dropped my coffee. I called my lawyer. Yes, I have one now. And he laughed out loud. This is nonsense, he said. They have no legal ground. Tell that to my ulcer, I muttered. I wanted to pretend it didn't bother me, that I was untouchable now, above their games. But it did. It got under my skin in a way even that single dollar bill hadn't. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. It was always about control. I didn't respond. So they escalated. Amanda went online, posted a carousel of childhood photos, and wrote captions about the brother who abandoned us after getting rich. Hundreds of comments, sympathy, and support. She's so strong, they said. Family betrayal is the worst. No one asked why her strong self needed $300,000 in crypto scams. I kept my head down until one day my assistant buzzed me. There's someone here to see you, she said, her voice tense. It's your mother. I should have said no. I should have walked out the back. But curiosity won. She walked in like she owned the room. Pearl's beige cardigan, the perfectly curled hair that somehow never moved. But the face was different, hollowed, panicked. You look thin, she said. Like we were meeting for brunch. I didn't reply. She sat uninvited. Your sister's struggling, she began, ignoring the lawsuit. The smear campaign. All of it. We're struggling, your father's. She hesitated. He's not well. Gambling, not working out for him. I asked coldly. She flinched. Don't be cruel. I came here to talk, to fix this. I stood. Fix it by dropping the lawsuit. Apologize. Admit what you've done. She looked up at me like I spoke in Greek. We don't owe you an apology. You were always different. Ungrateful, cold. I leaned on the desk. I paid your mortgage. I sent money while you told the neighbors I was some dropout who never visits. I carried this family. You handed me $1 and called it symbolic. She stood, her voice rising. Because money doesn't matter to you. You act like it does now. But deep down, you still want our approval. And that was the final punch. Because she was right. Somewhere in me, that wanted child still wanted it. We're proud of you. From people who gave Amanda a house and handed me pity. But not anymore. No. I said I want freedom. And the only way I get it is by cutting you off for good. Her face twisted. But what she said next, it sealed everything. You'll never be one of us. You never belonged. I nodded slowly. Then let Amanda handle your debt. And I walked her out. No goodbye, no hug. Just me and the click of the door behind her. But the real explosion came later that night. Amanda went live on Instagram. Tears-stained face, croaky voice. He disowned us. She sobbed. After everything we did for him, we're family. You don't give up on family. The comments flooded in. You deserve better. He's a monster. Cut him off, queen. I closed the app. I learned my lesson. Let them scream into the void. Let them make me the villain. Better that than the fool who pays for the fire that burns him. But the next morning, I woke to a voicemail from a name I hadn't seen in a decade. Uncle Dean, my father's brother. The black sheep. The one they always called selfish for leaving the family business and moving across the country. His message was simple. Saw Amanda's meltdown. Just wanted to say, I've been there. If you ever want to talk, give me a call. Proud of you, kid. I stared at the screen for a long time because maybe, just maybe, this whole thing wasn't about burning bridges. Maybe it was about building new ones. After everything, the lawsuit, the public smear campaign. Amanda showed up in my office with her final warning. There was silence. At first, it felt suspicious. No new posts, no anonymous blogs about successful sons who forget their families, no angry voicemails. Even Amanda disappeared. Her Instagram was empty, her phone disconnected. But I wasn't naive. This wasn't the end of a war. It was a regrouping. Meanwhile, I was feeling something else for the first time in years. I could breathe. I woke up without the weight in my chest. No. What's today's guilt trip going to be? Drank coffee in my own kitchen, not counting pennies or worrying about the next manipulation. Work was thriving. The startup was growing. And for once, I wasn't someone's emergency fund. For a moment, I thought maybe I actually won. But in this family, victory always came with consequences. A week later, Sarah, my new attorney, walked into my office. We've got a situation, she said, tossing a file onto my desk. Amanda filed a second claim, this time for emotional damages from you, and she's got your parents backing her up. I laughed. Emotional damages? Does she even know what that means? Sarah didn't smile. They're going public. And this time, they're playing dirty. No. What? The title of the filing surprised me. He manipulated our elderly parents into poverty. This wasn't just fake. This was a siege. It started with an anonymous interview on a trashy YouTube tabloid channel. A woman in shadows spoke in a distorted voice, but anyone with half a brain could tell. Amanda, my brother. He was always vindictive. Success ruined him. He made mom give up her pension, forced dad to sell everything. He left us with nothing. The comments poured in. How awful. Greed ruins families. Amanda is so brave. Losing a sibling like that must be heartbreaking. I could have ignored it. We could have just stayed quiet. They weren't worth it. But then I got a call from a nursing home administrator. Apparently, my mother had tried to forge my signature to transfer some of my assets into a family trust. He approved it. She told them. They didn't just want money, they want to control everything. So I did the one thing Amanda never expected. I went public. I told everything on a live financial podcast. No filter about the dollar in the wallet, about covering their mortgage while they drink champagne, about Amanda giving the entire inheritance to some crypto clown, about lawsuits and manipulation. And the moment I realized I'd been raised as their backup plan, the clip got 1.3 million views in the first 24 hours. The narrative flipped. This guy isn't a traitor. He's a survivor. He doesn't owe them anything. They owe him everything. Amanda tried to clap back with a long Facebook post. Crying selfie, childhood photos she dug out to paint herself as the victim. I always loved my brother, but he changed. I didn't feel anger anymore. Only indifference and honesty pity me because someone who believes the world owes them something will always live in fear. But I, for the first time, lived in peace. The last surprise came quietly. My father called the man who barely spoke, unless it was to quote sports stats or criticize my tone. His voice was then raspy. I didn't know what they were planning, he said. I'm old. I didn't see how wrong we were. I didn't say anything. Your mom doesn't know I'm calling. But I saw your interview. I cried not because you exposed us, but because I realized we never really saw you. I'm sorry. Maybe he was sincere. Maybe he was just tired. But I said what I needed to say. I forgive you. I told him I'm not coming back. This wasn't just the end of drama. It was the end of a generational cycle that had held me hostage for decades. And finally, I had one. Not because I got rich, but because I got free. 6 months of silence. No lawsuits, no Instagram sob stories, no more phone calls pretending to be reconciliations. My mother vanished from Facebook. Amanda stopped posting beach selfies with captions like #family over everything. It was like the whole machine had finally run out of fuel. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't bracing for the next explosion. I slept, actually slept. No midnight virals. No waking up with phantom guilt gnawing at my chest. My therapist called it post-traumatic clarity. I called it freedom. I started spending money on things I actually wanted, a decent mattress, hiking gear, and a music production setup I'd always dreamed of as a kid, but never let myself want. Because back then, wanting things was selfish. Now it was survival. One Saturday afternoon, I found myself at a local cafe, the kind with overpriced lattes and succulent ice on every table. I was flipping through emails when a voice behind me said, "Hey, I wasn't sure it was you." I turned Emily, my cousin, daughter of Mom's estranged sister. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. She sat down before I could even react, holding a match for a latte. Like it was armor. Sorry, I saw your interview. The one about the inheritance and all that. Everyone in the family was talking about it for weeks. I braced myself. Let me guess, I said. They think I'm heartless. She shook her head slowly. Actually, most of them said it was about time someone said it. I blinked. You're kidding. Nope. You weren't the only one. They squeezed. You know, my mom co-signed a loan for Amanda once Amanda defaulted. Grandma had to cover it to avoid losing her retirement. Nobody talks about that. But we all watched you burn and thought, well, better him than us. I stared at her, and that's when it hit me. I'd been the family firewall, taking all the hits, all the guilt, all the just this once. You're the stable one. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Emily gave me a sad smile. Because I watched you walk away. And I thought maybe I can too. She left before I could say more, but something shifted in me. A week later, I was back at my apartment. The framed dollar bill still hung in my office next to the quote from my therapist. Real love doesn't invoice you. That's when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. The message? Mom's in assisted living. Amanda's living at the lake house. Dad's pension is gone. Just thought you'd want to know. No name, no signature. But I didn't need one. They wanted me to come running. One last bait. One last. See what you've done. I didn't reply. I just looked around my apartment. The vinyl records were stacked by the window. My dog is snoring on the couch. The mug I bought last week said, "I'm not your backup plan," and smiled. Let them drown in their own mess. I wasn't their flotation device anymore. A few months later, I got invited to speak at a tech conference. Panel topic: burnout, boundaries, and the myth of family loyalty. I almost didn't say yes, but then I thought about the kid I used to be, the one with vending machine dinners and family guilt stitched into every decision. He deserved to speak, so I did. I told the story from the dollar in the wallet to the courtroom. Games. I spoke not as a victim, but as someone who finally understood being needed isn't the same as being loved. After the panel, someone in the audience, a kid, probably in their early 20s, came up to me. He didn't say much, just handed me a sticky note that read, "Thank you." I thought I was the only one, and that was the real inheritance. Not the house, not the lake property, not the savings account. Amanda blew on crypto schemes. But the moment I realized breaking the cycle doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. Story 3. At Christmas dinner, my mom gave my sister a car and turned to me. You get memories. That's enough for someone like you. My dad laughed. She's always been bad luck and too naive to notice we use her money. I stayed silent. I just smiled and handed them a single sheet of paper. By the time they finished reading, they couldn't breathe. Is this a joke? I asked, staring at the keys in Rachel's hand. Mom didn't even look at me. She was too busy helping my sister take selfies next to the brand new Lexus parked outside. wrapped in a giant red bow, like something out of a TV ad. "It's not a joke," Mom said sweetly, finally turning to me. "Rachel deserves it. She's worked so hard this year." "And me?" I asked. My voice wasn't shaking. "Not yet." Mom smiled, sipped her wine, and then said, You get memories. That's enough for someone like you." Dad burst out laughing from the recliner. "Yeah, memories and receipts. She's always been bad luck." "Anyway," Rachel snorted, "and too naive to even notice where her money goes." My jaw clenched, but I didn't say a word. I had just sat there holding the wrap box. I brought custom-made ornaments with everyone's names engraved. Pathetic. The room went back to laughing, joking, Rachel squealing, and Mom gushing. Dad is pouring another drink. No one noticed that I hadn't moved, that I was staring at them like strangers, but I was still gripping that box like it meant anything. Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a single folded piece of paper. I placed it on the table in front of my mother. "What's that?" Rachel asked between selfies. "Reddit," I said softly. Mom unfolded the paper with one manicured hand, still smiling. Then the smile vanished. "What is this?" Dad asked, leaning in. "You can't be serious." Rachel grabbed it, read 2 lines, and threw it back like it was poison. And just like that, the laughter stopped. No one said a word. No one could. Because what they just read would change everything. "You've always been a giver." Mom used to say, she just forgot to mention it. Givers in this family get eaten alive. I didn't grow up feeling poor. I grew up feeling replaceable. Rachel was the favorite before she even knew how to spell her own name. It was like the world revolved around her. Every dance recital, every dentist appointment, every tantrum. She was the center of gravity. I was the shadow, the afterthought, the one who should know better. "She's your little sister, Anna. You should share." Mom would say when Rachel broke my stuff, "You're older. Be the example." Dad would say when Rachel lied and I got blamed for it. I started working at 16 to help pay for groceries. They didn't ask. They expected it. Rachel got a car on her 17th birthday. I got a ride to work and a passive-aggressive comment about taking responsibility. But I didn't complain. Not when Mom guilts me into helping with Rachel's college apps. Not when Dad asked me to co-sign the loan for Rachel's community college. Just for now. Not even when Rachel dropped out after 1 semester and spent the loan money on a trip to Cabo. "You're such a buzzkill," she told me when I found out. "And what were you going to do with that money anyway? You don't even have a boyfriend." I should have walked away then, but I didn't. I kept paying. When Rachel got her first apartment, I helped with rent. When she quit her job for mental health, I covered her phone bill, her groceries, and even her therapy. "You're doing God's work," Mom used to say, half joking. "Honestly, it's just so generous of you. You always had such a soft heart. Unlike me." That was the game. They praised me just enough to keep me paying. Guilt-tripped me just enough to make me stay. "You don't have kids?" Dad would remind me, "You have more freedom than the rest of us." Translation: "You don't need your money, so give it to the people who do, like Rachel." Even when I moved out, they didn't stop. Mom called it a phase and sent me Rachel's electric bill in the mail. "Can you just cover this until her new job kicks in?" Spoiler: there was no new job. I covered it anyway. When Rachel got engaged, I paid for the bridal shower. When the wedding came, I bought her the $1,200 espresso machine she put on the registry. Even though she doesn't drink coffee, she opened it in front of everyone and said, "Oh, I thought it'd be the upgraded model." My dad chuckled and muttered, "Still cheap," under his breath. That one stung, but not as much as last month, when Mom casually told me that Rachel's down payment on her new apartment came from family savings. I blinked. "What? Family savings?" She waved me off. "Oh, sweetie, it's the account we've always had. The one you've been depositing into since you started working at the firm. You knew that was for all of us, right?" No, I did not." Rachel stood next to her, grinning like it was a joke. "Technically, I am family, so thanks, I guess." I felt something inside me. Shift, not crack. Break. I didn't say anything that day. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't storm out. But I went home and opened my laptop. I spent 3 nights combing through bank statements, old Venmo logs, and credit card records, every dollar I had sent them and every bill I had paid. Every favor I had covered, I tracked it all. The total made me nauseous. $392.14. That's how much I've given them since I turned 21. They bought a car, booked vacations, and renovated the guest bathroom, all with money that had come out of my account. Money I'd worked 60-hour weeks for, and not once had they said thank you. But they had laughed. I remembered the way Dad chuckled when I got passed over for a promotion. I remembered Rachel saying, "You're good with money, but not with people." I remembered Mom's voice, soft and smug. "You know, you'll always be our safety net." That's when I knew they didn't love me. They used me. And this Christmas, this little Lexus stunt was their way of spitting in my face while wearing a smile. So I stopped crying, and I started printing and planning. I'm not your bank. I'm not your doormat and not your safety net. I'm done being quiet. Read the paper, you'll understand. Christmas night. Candlelight. Gold plates. Napkins folded like swans. Rachel in a red velvet dress. That's on his third drink. Mom humming to herself while slicing ham. Fake every bit of it. I sat at the table like an invited stranger. My name was written in cursive on a place card. My presence was acknowledged with polite nods, like a waiter had let me in by mistake. Then came the moment Mom stood up, holding a box with a massive satin bow. This, she said, beaming, is for Rachel, for everything she's accomplished this year. Rachel clapped like a seal. Oh my God, is this? It is, Mom said. She handed her the keys. Dad raised his glass to our golden girl. Everyone applauded. Then Mom turned to me. And for you, sweetheart. She reached into her purse and pulled out, not a gift, but a dusty photo of me as a toddler in a tinsel hat. You get memories. That's enough for someone like you. I blinked just once. Dad chuckled. She's always been bad luck and too naive to notice we use her money. The table exploded in laughter. Rachel giggled. Seriously though, now you should be proud. You basically bought me a car. Something inside me snapped clean. I reached into my coat pocket. Wait, I said, rising to my feet before dessert. I have a gift too. I placed the folded document on the table, printed on thick, cream-colored paper. What's this? Mom asked, already annoyed. Read it, I said. She rolled her eyes but opened it anyway. That leaned in. Rachel peeked over her shoulder. Their faces changed line by line, at first confusion, then disbelief, then panic. This is a full expense report, Dad muttered. Since when do you wake up? Since always, I said. Every dollar I ever gave you. Every bill I paid. Every emergency loan I never got back. Every vacation you booked was under shared family savings. You kept track of all that money. Her voice was low and venomous. Of course I did. And the responsible one, remember? Rachel snatched the paper and scanned it like she was looking for lies. This is insane. You're obsessed. No, I said I was loyal until tonight. Dad slammed his glass down. What is this supposed to prove? That I know, I said calmly, is that I finally see all of you for who you are. Mom's jaw tightened. Don't start this drama here. It's Christmas. Oh, you mean the day you gave my sister Alexis a call and called me bad luck? You're overreacting, Rachel said, waving her hand. You've always helped. That's your thing. You're good at it. No, I snapped. I'm done with it. I'm not your thing. I'm not your bank. I'm not your backup plan. You're being cruel. Mom said we're family. No, I said louder. You are a group of people I'm related to. That's it. That face turned red. You're ungrateful. We raised you. Did you? I laughed bitterly. Or did you just tolerate me because I paid the bills? Mom stood, her face pale. Where's this coming from? Where? I said, pulling out my phone from this. I tapped play on a voice recording. Their voices filled the room, clear as day. Laughing, mocking. Repeating the same lines they said minutes ago. Bad luck. Naive. Used her money. I recorded it. I wanted them to hear themselves. The room fell silent. Rachel looked like she might vomit. That stared at his empty glass. Mom's lips parted, but no words came out. And then I delivered the final blow. You said I get memories. I said quietly. Here's one you'll never forget. I'm cutting you all off. Rachel gasped. You're joking. I stepped back. No more bills. No more bailouts. No more saving you from yourselves. I've transferred the rest of the family savings into a trust. It's locked. You can't touch it. You. What? That croaked. I also sent this report to your accountant. I added, just in case you try anything funny with my taxes again. And Rachel, the first turned to her. Your new car is in your name, but the insurance was paid with my card. I just canceled it. She stood up, panicking. You can't do that. You're going to ruin everything. No, I said. I'm just refusing to be part of it anymore. Then I smiled. For the first time in years, I smiled for me, and I walked out while they sat there, stunned, breathless, and choking on the consequences. They didn't think I'd follow through. They thought I was bluffing. But when the money stopped, the panic began. And when I stopped answering, they unraveled. The morning after Christmas was so quiet, it felt unreal. No screaming, no phone buzzing every 3 seconds, no demands disguised as check-ins. I made coffee. I poured it into my favorite chipped mug, curled up by the window, and stared at the snow, piling on the railing like nothing had happened. But then I opened my phone. 37 messages. 16 from Mom, 11 from Dad, 10 from Rachel. And not a single one said, "I'm sorry," just guilt, just rage, just desperate attempts to claw control back. How could you ruin the holiday like that? You've always been so dramatic. This isn't you. Rachel hasn't stopped crying. You humiliated her in front of the whole family. What's wrong with you? I scrolled and scrolled until I reached the voicemail from Dad. Short, cold, a whisper beneath clenched teeth. You made your point. Come back to your senses. I didn't respond. Instead, I wrapped myself in a blanket and went back to watching the snow fall. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. Real peace. Not the temporary kind that comes after suppressing a fight. Not the fake silence of everything's fine, but the peace that comes when you burn the bridge and don't regret it. That peace lasted 3 days. On the 4th, someone knocked. I opened the door. It was Rachel. Eyes red, eyeliner smeared, lips trembling under badly concealed lipstick. In her hands was a box, one of those family photo albums Mom used to make in the early 2000s. She clutched it like it might somehow rewrite the past. I brought this to remind you that we're family, she said quietly. I looked at her like a stranger, because she was. A photo album doesn't make you family, I said. It just makes you visible on paper. Her eyes flashed. I saw the old Rachel trying to crawl back up to the tears. The manipulator. The actress. But then it flickered. And for a second, I saw something else. Are you seriously going to cut us off forever? She whispered. Just like that. I tilted my head. Not just like that. You spent 10 years building the case for it. I'm just delivering the verdict. She stood there like she didn't know whether to cry or scream, but she didn't argue. She left the album on my doorstep and walked away. That night, I got a call from my lawyer. Your father attempted to access the family savings account this morning, he said. He used an old authorization form with a forged signature. My stomach twisted, but not from surprise, from disgust. I blocked it, the lawyer said. The account's frozen tight, they can't touch a cent. I laughed softly. Perfect. Let them sweat. The next morning, I got another call. Blocked number, I answered out of instinct. Anna. It was Mark, my cousin's husband, their accountant. I hope I'm not overstepping, he said nervously. But your dad's trying to file paperwork, claiming everything you gave them was a gift. To avoid paying taxes, I sighed. Of course he is. I wanted you to know because, well, I know how they've treated you. I've seen it for years. I should have said something sooner. My throat tightened a little. Mark. Neutral. Quiet. Mark finally picked aside my side. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. But it didn't stop. 3 days later, Mom sent out a mass family email titled, What Anna Did. I opened it. I shouldn't have, but I did. It was a 3-paragraph essay on how I'd shamed the family, disrespected tradition, and abandoned the ones who raised me. It ended with, We still love Anna. We hope she comes to her senses soon. I didn't reply, but I saw that no one else did either. Not a single cousin, not an aunt, not even grandma. No one replied. And that silence said more than any reply ever could. Meanwhile, I was busy doing something completely foreign to my family. Living. I took time off work. I booked a tiny Airbnb cottage in a lakeside town where no one knew me, and I didn't know anyone or anything. I brought books and blank sketch pads. Oversized sweaters. Zero guilt. I created a new bank account labeled Only Mine. I painted badly. I made soup from scratch. I cried one night. Not because I missed them, but because I realized how long I carried them. Like a weight I thought I deserved. I slept better in that tiny cottage than I ever had in the house I paid for, but was never welcome in a week into the trip. I got another surprise, and Tilly showed up at the door. She didn't knock. She just stood there holding a homemade pie like it was a peace treaty. I let her in. I knew something like this would happen, she said, sitting at the table like she'd lived there forever. I just didn't know it would be you who finally did it. Did what? Stop pretending, she said. I blinked. Your mom called me, crying, saying you broke her heart. But all I could think was, finally, someone broke the cycle. I stared at her, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. She reached across the table and took my hand. I wish I had done what you did years ago. Then the final twist. 3 weeks after Christmas, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real letter from Rachel. The handwriting was shaky, but it was hers. Anna _ I don't know how to say this without sounding like I want something. I know I've been cruel. I know I treated you like a safety net. I thought that was love. Or maybe I just didn't care. But you said something that night that I've been thinking about every day since you said, I'm not your thing. And for the first time, I saw it. I saw what we turned you into. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to try and become someone you could maybe stand to know again. I'm sorry. I really truly am under her. I didn't write back. Not yet, but I read it twice. Then again. And for once, her voice didn't sound like entitlement. Sounded human. They told me I was cold, selfish, ungrateful. But what they really meant was, I don't like who you are when you stop letting me use you. It's been 3 months since that dinner. 3 months since I dropped the paper that made them gasp. Since I told them I was done. Since I shut the door behind me and didn't flinch when no one followed. And the strangest part, I don't miss them. Not even a little. No, I didn't get that. I'm proud of you. Speech. No heartfelt apology. No teary reunion with violins in the background. What I got instead? Silence. And it's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. For the first time in my life, I've stopped living as a reaction. I no longer check my phone expecting a crisis. I don't brace myself before answering emails. I don't tell you how much of my paycheck I can afford to give away without getting called cheap. Now I wake up and think, what do I want to do today? Not what does Rachel need? Not what Bill's mom is behind on? Not what fake emergency is going to get pinned on me this time? No, just me. And maybe that sounds small, but when your entire identity was built on being useful, helpful, and selfless, choosing yourself feels like rebellion. They still try. Sometimes. I got a text from Dad last week. Dad, hope you're doing better. Rachel's car insurance lapsed again, just so you're aware. I stared at it for a full minute, then replied to me, just so you're aware, I don't care. He hasn't texted back since Mom tried the guilt route in February. Mom, we're thinking of selling the house. Thought you might want to keep it in the family. Translation, please pay for it so we don't have to downsize. I left her on read. But here's the twist. No one saw it coming. Not even me. Rachel started therapy. Real therapy. Not the one she used to name drop for pity points. The real gut-wrenching, mirror-holding kind. She sent me a second letter. I'm not asking for a relationship. I'm asking for a chance to become someone worthy of one. And you know what? I believe her, not because I'm naive. Not because I'm soft, but because for once, she didn't ask me for money, or health, or forgiveness. Just a chance. That matters. I've learned something no one ever taught me as a kid. Love without respect is manipulation. Family without boundaries is a trap. And loyalty without reciprocity is slavery. And I'm done playing the fool. I used to think walking away from your family meant failure. Now I know it means freedom. They raised me to believe I owed them everything. But they were wrong. Parents don't earn sainthood just by having kids. Siblings don't earn loyalty just by sharing blood. Respect is earned. And they burned their balance with me years ago. Do I wish things had been different? Maybe. But wishing won't spend my money. Wishing won't erase the nights. I cried quietly. While they laughed in the next room, wishing won't make my scars polite. So, no, I don't regret what I did. I regret that it took me this long to do it. The truth is simple. They had a daughter, a sister, a lifeline, and they turned her into a wallet, a babysitter, and a financial plan. And now they have none of those things. But I have me, and that's finally enough.